Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. We live in a world that encourages us to share everything, our thoughts, our struggles, our goals, and even our secrets. But wisdom, as Joyce Meyer often reminds us, isn't just about what we do, it's also about what we don't do. Today, I want to talk about something powerful, boundaries. Because sometimes what you keep to yourself is just as important as what you choose to reveal. Inspired by the wisdom of Joyce Meyer, I want to share with you 4 secrets you should never share with anyone, not out of fear, but out of strength, discernment, and self-respect. Let's explore how holding back can actually set us free. One of the most important secrets you should never share with anyone is your long-term goals and dreams. While it might seem natural or even exciting to talk about what you want to achieve in life, there is a quiet wisdom in keeping these ambitions close to your heart. When we speak too soon about our dreams, especially before they've taken root or gained momentum, we risk weakening their power. Words have energy, and sharing too much, too early, can sometimes drain that energy or expose our dreams to negativity, doubt, or even jealousy. Joyce Meyer often teaches the importance of discernment, knowing what to say, when to say it, and who to say it to. This principle is especially important when it comes to our long-term goals. Many people will not see what you see. They haven't been given your vision, and they haven't experienced your calling. So when you share a big dream with someone who doesn't understand it, they may respond with criticism, skepticism, or even subtle discouragement. This can plant seeds of doubt in your heart, causing you to second-guess your own purpose. There's also the danger of pride slipping in when we speak about our goals too openly. Talking about what we're going to do can sometimes feel almost as satisfying as actually doing it. We receive praise, attention, and admiration, but without taking action. This false sense of achievement can rob us of the drive to keep pushing forward when things get difficult. Instead of quietly building, we've already used up our emotional reward through premature exposure. Another reason to keep your goals private is protection. Not everyone around you has good intentions. Some people may pretend to support you, but secretly feel threatened by your ambition. They may try to sabotage your plans subtly or distract you from your path. Others may use your vision to compete with you or take your ideas and make them their own. When your dreams are still in the early stages, they are vulnerable. Sharing them too widely is like exposing a seed before it has had the chance to take root and grow strong. In addition, when we constantly talk about our goals, we risk becoming more focused on the idea of the outcome than on the process it takes to get there. Goals are not achieved through wishful thinking or grand announcements. They are achieved through quiet discipline, daily sacrifice, and a strong inner commitment. When we keep our dreams to ourselves, we are forced to stay inwardly motivated. We are no longer performing for an audience or trying to impress others. We are doing the work for the right reasons. Keeping your goals private also builds character. It teaches patience, endurance, and humility. It trains you to be strong in secret, to grow in silence, and to let your results speak for themselves. It also gives God room to work. As Joyce Meyer often says, sometimes we need to step back and allow God to move behind the scenes. When we keep things between us and God, we create space for divine timing and divine protection. Some goals are meant to be developed in a sacred space far away from the noise, the opinions, and the expectations of others. Of course, this doesn't mean you should never share your goals at all. There is value in having trusted mentors, spiritual leaders, or close friends who support and guide you. But the key is knowing who to trust and when to open up. Not everyone deserves access to your inner life, and not every dream needs to be announced before it's ready. Another secret you should never share with anyone is your family or relationship issues. In today's world, where social media encourages people to air their private lives for public viewing, it's easy to fall into the trap of oversharing. But just because something is common doesn't mean it is wise. Joyce Meyer often emphasizes the importance of protecting what is sacred. And there is nothing more sacred than the people closest to your heart. When you start speaking negatively about your family members or your partner, even with people you trust, you open a door that should remain closed. Our relationships are deeply personal. They are built on shared history, private moments, and emotional bonds that outsiders will never fully understand. When you share issues from your family or romantic life with others, you risk having those problems judged out of context. People may mean well, but they don't live in your house. They don't see the full picture, and their advice is often based on limited understanding. Worse yet, some may take pleasure in your struggles, using your vulnerability as gossip or ammunition. There's also a spiritual danger in exposing your loved ones during moments of anger or frustration. When we speak out of emotion, especially hurt or betrayal, we often exaggerate or focus only on the negative. Once those words are spoken, they can't be taken back. The person listening may form a permanent opinion based on a temporary problem. Even if you and your family or partner resolve the issue later, the damage in the listener's mind is done. They may continue to see that person through the lens of your hurtful words even when things have healed. Talking too much about personal conflicts can also keep us stuck in a cycle of offense. Joyce Meyer teaches that we must learn to forgive and move on, not just for others, but for our own peace. But when we keep repeating the story of how someone hurt us, we keep the wound fresh, we feed resentment instead of allowing ourselves to heal. Sharing every frustration with others often makes problems feel bigger, not smaller. It can rob you of your ability to see the good in your loved ones and delay the process of reconciliation. There's also a sense of honor and integrity that comes with keeping certain struggles private. Protecting your family and partner, even when things aren't perfect, is a sign of maturity. It shows that you value the relationship enough to work through issues without needing outside validation or sympathy. It means you're choosing love and loyalty over momentary emotional relief. Joyce Meyer often talks about choosing the high road, doing what's right even when it's hard, and sometimes that means guarding your mouth. People are not perfect. Everyone has flaws. Every relationship goes through seasons of tension, misunderstanding, and even pain. But those challenges are best handled internally through prayer, patience, communication, and sometimes counseling, not by broadcasting them to the world. When you speak negatively about someone you're close to, you don't just dishonor them, you dishonor yourself. You show that your loyalty has conditions, and when people see that, they may begin to question your character more than the person you're criticizing. There is also wisdom in giving people space to change. If you've gone around telling everyone how badly someone treated you and then that person grows, repents, or becomes a better version of themselves, your previous words still linger. You've written a public script that no longer matches the private reality, and that creates conflict, confusion, and mistrust. Silence, in many cases, preserves your ability to move forward without unnecessary explanations or apologies. Finally, it's worth remembering that some matters require discretion, not discussion. What happens within your home should be protected with the same care you would give to anything valuable. Trust, once broken by loose words, can be hard to rebuild. And while speaking out might feel like a relief in the moment, the long-term consequences often reveal that keeping quiet was the wiser path. Your financial status or plans are another area of your life that should be kept private. In a world where material success is often equated with personal worth, many people feel the need to prove themselves through what they own, how much they earn, or what they plan to achieve financially. But sharing too much about your financial situation can lead to misunderstandings, strained relationships, and unnecessary problems. Joyce Meyer teaches that true wisdom involves restraint, and this certainly applies when it comes to money. Whether you are struggling or succeeding financially, there is value in keeping those details between you, God, and perhaps a trusted financial advisor. Talking openly about your income, savings, debts, or investment plans can create tension even among close friends and family. If you're doing well, it may unintentionally make others feel insecure or jealous. Not everyone can handle someone else's success with grace. People might begin to treat you differently, expect favors, or assume things about your character. They may feel entitled to your resources or question how you use your money. Some may even distance themselves out of resentment or feelings of inadequacy. On the other hand, if you're experiencing financial difficulties and talk about them too freely, it can lead to judgment, pity, or unsolicited advice that may do more harm than good. There's also a spiritual principle at play. Money can easily become a source of pride or worry, and both emotions can be spiritually dangerous. When you talk too much about how much you earn or plan to earn, it can feed pride and make you feel self-important. You might start believing that your value comes from your financial status rather than your character and relationship with God. Conversely, if you dwell too much on what you lack, it can feed anxiety and fear, making you feel defeated or hopeless. Joyce Meyer often reminds us that our security must come from God, not from our bank accounts. By keeping our financial matters private, we guard our hearts from these emotional traps. Sharing financial plans can also expose you to manipulation or exploitation. When others know your financial intentions, such as a big purchase, investment, or savings goal, they may try to influence your decisions for their own benefit. You might find people coming to you with offers, requests, or schemes that serve their interests more than yours. This can lead to distractions, bad decisions, or financial loss. Even well-meaning people might pressure you into choices that are not aligned with your values or goals. Protecting your financial intentions gives you the freedom to move wisely without interference or confusion. Another reason to maintain discretion about money is the way it affects your relationships. Financial transparency with the wrong people can create a power imbalance or shift in expectations. Friends may expect you to always pay. Family members may assume you have more to give, and colleagues might judge your work ethic based on perceived wealth. These assumptions are rarely accurate and often cause tension. When financial information is kept private, relationships can remain based on mutual respect, not financial standing. There's also peace in privacy. Not everything needs to be public to be powerful. Quiet success often brings more fulfillment than loud declarations. When your financial growth happens in private, you are less likely to feel the pressure to prove something to others. You can make decisions based on wisdom and purpose rather than image and approval. Joyce Meyer often encourages believers to focus on living with integrity, not impressing others. Financial privacy allows you to build your life with quiet confidence, trusting that God sees your efforts and will bless them in due time. Finally, it is important to remember that money is a tool, not a trophy. Its purpose is to serve, not to define. Whether you are wealthy or struggling, the amount in your account does not determine your worth. Keeping your financial life private protects you from being labeled, misunderstood, or used. It allows you to remain focused, humble, and wise as you pursue a life that honors God rather than one that tries to gain the approval or admiration of others. Your acts of kindness or charity are another area of life that should be kept private. In a culture where people often post every good deed online, there is a temptation to showcase generosity for recognition rather than living out of a genuine spirit of compassion. Joyce Meyer frequently emphasizes that our motives matter to God more than our actions alone. When we do something kind or charitable, it should come from a place of love, not a desire for attention or praise. Speaking too much about your good deeds can shift the focus from the act itself to your own ego, which quietly undermines the true meaning of kindness. One of the biggest dangers in publicizing acts of kindness is falling into pride. When you constantly talk about how much you give or how often you help others, it can make you feel superior. You might begin to think of yourself as more moral, more generous, or more important than others. This mindset not only disconnects you from humility, but it also creates distance between you and the people you're trying to help. Instead of seeing others as equals, you may start to view them as projects or opportunities to feel better about yourself. Joyce Meyer teaches that humility is key to spiritual growth, and when our kindness becomes a tool for self-promotion, we lose the heart of God's purpose for it. Another issue with sharing your charitable acts is the possibility of shaming or embarrassing the person receiving the help. Not everyone wants their struggle known, and publicizing your role in their situation, even with good intentions, can feel like a betrayal. Helping someone should be about restoring their dignity, not putting them in a position where they feel exposed or indebted. True kindness respects privacy and seeks to lift others up without putting ourselves in the spotlight. The best kind of giving is the kind that no one sees, because then it is not about being seen, but about truly serving. Talking too much about your generosity can also distort your own relationship with giving. It can become transactional, where the act of giving is not an act of worship or compassion, but a way to gain applause, admiration, or influence. This is dangerous because it can harden your heart. You begin to give not out of joy, but out of habit, expectation, or self-interest. Joyce Meyer often points out that God examines our hearts more than our hands. It's not about how much you give, but why you give. Keeping your good works private allows your heart to stay pure and your intentions focused. There is also spiritual wisdom in keeping acts of kindness hidden. In Matthew 6, Jesus teaches about giving in secret so that our Father who sees what is done in secret will reward us. This isn't just about religious obedience, it's a principle of trust. When you keep your giving private, you're saying, I don't need anyone else to see this. I trust that God sees it, and that's enough. That kind of faith honors God in a powerful way. It shifts the motivation from external validation to internal conviction. It trains you to be generous without strings attached, and it deepens your walk with God in a quiet but meaningful way. When acts of kindness are constantly talked about, they lose some of their power. They become stories for others rather than personal moments between you, the person you helped, and God. Keeping them private preserves their sacredness. It allows the goodness of the act to remain intact, untouched by ego or the need for affirmation. It also keeps your focus on others instead of yourself, which is the true spirit of generosity. Giving without recognition builds character, fosters humility, and honors the very heart of what it means to love others unconditionally. Your personal weaknesses or insecurities are among the most sensitive areas of your life and should be handled with care. While society increasingly encourages vulnerability and openness, it's important to understand that not everyone is worthy of access to the deepest parts of who you are. Sharing your weaknesses too freely or with the wrong people can lead to betrayal, manipulation, and emotional harm. Joyce Meyer often emphasizes the importance of discernment and emotional maturity, and this especially applies to how you manage and reveal your struggles. Being wise about what you disclose and to whom is a sign of strength, not fear or pride. When you speak openly about your insecurities, you make yourself vulnerable. And while vulnerability can foster connection in the right environment, it can also invite judgment or exploitation when shared with the wrong audience. Not everyone is emotionally safe. Some people may appear to be listening with empathy, but deep down they are collecting information that could be used against you later. Others may lack the maturity or compassion to hold space for your struggles. They may respond with shallow advice, criticism, or even use your honesty as gossip fodder. Once your weakness becomes part of their narrative, it's out of your hands. Your reputation, your sense of trust, and even your peace of mind can be affected. There's also the issue of identity. When you constantly speak about your insecurities, you begin to reinforce them in your own mind. Words are powerful, and the more you talk about a weakness, the more it becomes part of your inner identity. Instead of viewing your challenges as areas of growth or healing, you might start to believe that they define who you are. Joyce Meyer teaches that we are not our flaws or failures. We are children of God, constantly being renewed and strengthened. But when we speak from a place of brokenness rather than faith, we reinforce fear rather than courage. Another problem with oversharing insecurities is that it can shift your focus from healing to seeking sympathy. While it's comforting to be heard and supported, there's a danger in becoming emotionally dependent on others to validate your pain. You may start to use vulnerability as a way to receive attention or comfort instead of confronting the root issue and working through it. This creates a cycle where you share, feel temporary relief, but don't actually grow or change. The goal is not just to be heard, it's to be healed. And healing often happens in quiet, sacred spaces where God can work in your heart without the noise and interference of outside voices. There's a time and place for sharing weaknesses, but it must be done with discernment. Not everyone in your life is meant to be your confidant. God may place certain people in your path mentors, counselors, or trusted spiritual leaders who can handle your vulnerability with wisdom and love. These are the people who will pray with you, walk beside you, and speak truth over your life. But even then, you must be led by peace and the Holy Spirit in deciding what to share and when. Silence is not a sign of hiding, it's a sign of guarding. Your heart is sacred and it deserves protection. Joyce Meyer often reminds us that God is the safest place for our pain. When we bring our insecurities to Him first, we are met with unconditional love and divine understanding. God knows our weaknesses better than we do, and He sees them not as failures, but as opportunities to reveal His strength. His grace is made perfect in our weakness, but that truth requires us to lean on Him, not on the opinions or validation of others. When you share every weakness with people instead of God, you may miss the very healing and growth He wants to bring directly into your life. Keeping your insecurities private also allows you the space to process and overcome them at your own pace. You're not performing for anyone or feeling the pressure to appear okay. You can wrestle, reflect, pray, and grow in the privacy of your own walk with God. This internal work is often the most transformational. It builds resilience, deepens your faith, and develops a quiet confidence that no one can take away. When you do speak laterally and when the time is right, you speak from a place of victory, not vulnerability. There is a quiet strength in privacy. Protecting your inner life doesn't mean you're pretending or being dishonest. It means you're wise enough to know that not everything needs to be exposed in order to be real. Healing is sacred, growth is sacred, and when you treat your weaknesses with dignity and discretion, you give yourself the freedom to become stronger without the weight of outside judgment or interference. Your next move or strategy in life is one of the most crucial things to keep to yourself. In a world driven by ambition and competition, it can be tempting to share your plans with others, whether out of excitement, pride, or a desire for affirmation. But revealing your next steps before they are fully developed or before the right time can create unnecessary obstacles, attract negative energy, and open the door to sabotage. Joyce Meyer often teaches that wisdom includes knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be shared immediately. Some things need time to grow in the dark before they are ready to be seen in the light. When you share your next move prematurely, you risk exposing it to opinions and doubts that can derail your focus. People may not understand your vision or the reasons behind your decisions. They may question your motives, offer discouraging feedback, or highlight risks in a way that feeds your fear rather than your faith. Even those who love you may unintentionally discourage you because they are speaking from their own limitations, not from your calling. By speaking too soon, you may invite confusion into what was once a clear, Spirit-led decision. Joyce Meyer reminds us that not everyone will see what God has placed in your heart, and that's okay. Their agreement is not necessary for your obedience. There is also a spiritual principle in keeping your next move private. Many times God calls us to move in silence so that He can work without interference. When we talk too much about what we plan to do, we can become overly focused on people's reactions instead of God's direction. We start to adjust our plans based on approval or criticism, and before we know it, we've shifted away from what God originally told us. Silence keeps the focus on obedience. It keeps the process pure and aligned with divine timing. It gives God space to move on your behalf without the weight of human expectations. Sharing your next move can also attract envy or competition. Not everyone around you will be happy about your growth. Some may feel threatened, jealous, or intimidated by your direction, especially if it challenges their own comfort zone. They might try to copy your ideas, block your opportunities, or undermine your efforts subtly. What you thought was a supportive conversation could turn into a strategy session for someone else to get ahead of you. Protecting your plans helps guard the integrity of your vision. It keeps your dreams safe from those who don't have your best interest at heart. Another danger of talking too much about your next step is losing momentum. Sometimes the excitement of announcing your plans gives a false sense of progress. You feel like you've accomplished something just by talking about it, but talking is not the same as doing. Announcing your intentions can satisfy the emotional thrill of the goal, which can reduce your motivation to actually follow through. Joyce Meyer encourages believers to be doers of the word, not just hearers. In the same way, we should be doers of our calling, not just talkers about it. When you keep your plans to yourself, you stay hungry, focused, and grounded in action. Keeping your next move private also teaches discipline and patience. It forces you to develop the inner strength to carry something in your heart without needing external validation. You learn to wait for the right time, the right opportunity, and the right words. This kind of restraint builds spiritual maturity. It shifts your trust away from people's opinions and deeper into God's plan. You begin to rely less on applause and more on purpose. The quiet seasons become sacred, not wasted, because you know God is preparing you for something greater. There's also something deeply powerful about letting your results speak for themselves. When you move in silence and then show the outcome, the impact is greater. People can see the fruit of your labor without needing to have heard every detail of the process. This creates a quiet authority that cannot be denied. It also glorifies God more fully because when others ask how you did it, your answer can be simple: God led me. That kind of testimony is more powerful than any explanation or announcement. In life, not every step needs an audience. Some paths are meant to be walked in solitude. Some ideas are too precious to be exposed too soon. Some moves are meant to be between you and God until the right time comes. Keeping your next move private allows you to protect your purpose, preserve your peace, and move forward with clarity and strength. It is not secrecy out of fear, but discretion out of wisdom.